These babies deserve better than rotting in the American welfare system. We are giving them a chance. Wealthy families, good homes, a future. Marcus Cole spoke those words into his phone while standing over a bassinet containing a 2-month-old girl. His voice carried the calm certainty of a man who had convinced himself that selling children was an act of charity. Somewhere in a snowbound Montana wilderness, that same baby now lay in the arms of a woman who had stolen her 3 days ago. And the man who had just found them both had no idea that his decision in the next 60 seconds would determine whether they lived or died. But we will get to that. First, let me tell you how Aaron Blake came to be standing in an abandoned bus at 11:47 p.m., holding an infant who had been drugged into silence, while a blizzard tried to bury them all alive. Before we continue, tell us where you are watching from tonight. Drop your location in the comments below. 20 minutes earlier, Aaron had been driving his pickup truck along the border road between Montana and Canada. The headlights carved tunnels through walls of falling snow, illuminating nothing but white chaos in every direction. Temperature gauge read 31 below zero. Wind gusts hit the truck hard enough to push it sideways on the ice. A perfect night to be anywhere else. But the power station at mile marker 47 had gone offline, and someone needed to fix it before the backup generators at 3 different ranches ran out of fuel. That someone was always Aaron. Had been for 3 years now, ever since he traded a career of hunting terrorists for a life of hunting electrical faults in frozen equipment. The solitude suited him. Machines did not ask questions. Storms did not care about the past. And the vast empty wilderness of northern Montana offered something he had not found anywhere else. Silence, loud enough to drown out the screaming in his head. Ghost sat in the passenger seat, 9 years old, and showing it in the gray that had spread across his muzzle. The Belgian Malinois had been with Aaron through 4 deployments, through the mission that ended everything, through the long, dark months of learning how to be human again. A patch of silver fur spread across the dog's black chest, like frozen mist, the marking that had earned him his name. Most nights, Ghost slept during these drives, curled on the seat with his head on his paws, conserving energy with the efficiency of a veteran who knew rest was never guaranteed. Tonight, the dog was awake, more than awake, alert, ears rotating like satellite dishes, tracking something Aaron could not see or hear. When Ghost pressed his nose against the window and whined, Aaron's hands tightened on the wheel. In 9 years, he had never heard Ghost make that sound. The headlights caught something ahead, a shape in the snowdrift on the shoulder, dark against white, half buried, motionless. Abandoned vehicle. Happened constantly during storms like this. Smart thing would be to radio it in and keep driving. Let the county boys handle it in the morning when the weather cleared. Ghost whined again, louder, more urgent. Aaron stopped the truck. The wind hit him like a physical assault when he opened the door, finding every gap in his clothing, every inch of exposed skin. He grabbed his flashlight and pushed toward the shape, each step sinking knee-deep into fresh powder. An old bus. The kind that used to connect small towns before budget cuts killed the roots. Windows dark, covered in frost, door hanging open at an angle that suggested someone had forced it recently. Ghost was barking now. Not aggressive. Desperate. Aaron climbed inside. The smell reached him first. Stale air, fear, sweat, and underneath it, something chemical. Something wrong. His flashlight swept across empty seats, fast food wrappers, a torn blanket on the floor. Then the beam found the back row. A woman huddled against the window, her body curved around something she held against her chest. Dark hair plastered to her face, lips blue, skin the color of old paper. She flinched at the light, but did not move away, did not have the strength left to move. "Please," her voice came out as barely a breath. "The baby. Help the baby." Aaron moved closer, each step careful, his flashlight angled down to avoid blinding her further. The woman watched him come with eyes that held equal parts terror and desperate hope. She was young, late 20s maybe, wearing clothes completely wrong for this weather, thin jacket, no gloves, sneakers soaked through and probably frozen. The fact that she was still conscious bordered on miraculous. Then he saw what she was protecting. A baby, wrapped in a gray wool blanket that offered almost no protection against temperatures this extreme. The infant's face was visible, peaceful in sleep. Too peaceful. Aaron had seen death often enough to recognize its cousins. This baby was not dead, but she was sliding toward it with every passing minute, her tiny body surrendering heat faster than it could produce. He reached for the infant slowly, giving the woman time to object. She did not. Her arms loosened, releasing the bundle with the exhausted surrender of someone who had finally found help after giving up hope of ever finding it. The baby weighed almost nothing, a warm spot against his chest that should have been warmer. Aaron angled his flashlight to examine her more closely. Female, 2 or 3 months old. Breathing, but the rhythm was wrong. Too slow, too shallow. A grayish tinge to her skin that could be cold exposure, or could be something else. He checked her pulse, weak but present. Then his fingers found it. A small puncture wound on her tiny arm, fresh, the skin around it still showing faint bruising. Someone had injected this baby within the last 12 hours. Aaron looked at the woman. Even in the dim light, he could see similar marks on her forearm. But hers were different, older. Multiple punctures spaced over months, maybe years. The marks of someone who worked with needles professionally, or someone who had been worked on. The woman watched him examine the baby, her eyes tracking every movement of his hands. She knew what he was seeing, knew what conclusions he was drawing. Aaron met her gaze across the frozen darkness of that abandoned bus. "I have got you. But you need to tell me the truth." The words hung in the air like visible breath. The woman opened her mouth to respond. Then her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed against the seat. Aaron did not waste time. Hypothermia killed faster than secrets. He needed to get them warm, get them stable, and then figure out what kind of nightmare he had just stepped into. Ghost was waiting by the truck, pacing anxious circles in the snow. When Aaron appeared carrying the baby, the dog stopped and stared. Then Ghost did something he had never done with any stranger in 9 years. He sniffed the infant once, carefully, and lay down beside her when Aaron placed her in the footwell with the heat cranked to maximum. Not guarding, not alert, just settled, calm, present, as if he had already decided this tiny human belonged with them. Aaron returned to the bus for the woman. She weighed nothing when he lifted her over his shoulder, skin and bones beneath inadequate clothing. How long since she had eaten? How long had she been running? He arranged her in the back seat with emergency blankets, checked on the baby one more time, and climbed behind the wheel. The power station would have to wait. Some things mattered more than keeping the lights on. The drive to his cabin took over an hour through conditions that turned the road into a suggestion. Twice he had to dig the truck free from drifts that grabbed the wheels and refused to let go. Throughout the journey, He kept checking the rearview mirror. The woman remained unconscious but breathing. The baby remained silent, which worried him more than crying would have. His place sat at the end of a dirt road that had disappeared entirely under the snow. A converted workshop he had been turning into a home over the past 3 years. Wood stove, propane backup, running water when the pipes cooperated. Isolated enough that he could go weeks without human contact, which had been exactly the point. Inside, the fire he had banked before leaving still smoldered. Aaron fed it fresh logs until flames crackled high, then turned his attention to his unexpected guests. The woman first. He laid her on the couch near the stove, piling blankets over her shivering body. Her pulse was stronger already, color beginning to return to her face. Then the baby. In better light, he could examine her properly. The sedation was definitely wearing off. Small movements in her fingers and toes, tiny shifts of her legs beneath the blanket. Whatever drug she had been given was a small dose calculated to keep her quiet, rather than knock her out completely. Professional, precise, administered by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. The puncture wound was clean, no bruising from a struggled injection, no signs that the baby had resisted. This child had been sedated by someone with medical training, someone who had done it before and would probably do it again. Aaron sat back and stared at the sleeping infant. Somewhere in Afghanistan, 5 years ago, he had carried another child in his arms. A 4-year-old girl named Amira, with dark eyes full of trust and a smile that could break through any darkness. He had promised to bring her home safe. He had failed. The memory hit him like shrapnel, sharp and sudden. Amira's face superimposed over this nameless baby's features. The weight of a small body in his arms. The sound of gunfire. The moment when everything went wrong. Aaron forced himself to breathe. Pushed the memory back into the locked room in his mind, where he kept all the things he could not afford to feel. This was not Afghanistan. This was not Amira. This was a different child, a different situation, and he needed to focus on the present before the past dragged him under. Ghost had positioned himself between the couch and the makeshift bassinet Aaron had constructed from a laundry basket. The dog's eyes moved between the woman and the baby, conducting a continuous assessment. "Good boy." Aaron's voice came out rougher than intended. "Keep watch." Ghost's tail thumped once against the floor. Acknowledgement received. The woman woke just after 1 in the morning. Aaron heard the change in her breathing first, the sharp intake that signaled consciousness returning. Then the frantic scrambling as she searched for something that was not there. The baby. He was across the room before she could panic further, positioning himself where she could see him clearly. Over there. Safe. Sleeping. The woman's head whipped toward the basket. When she saw the baby breathing peacefully beneath warm blankets, something in her shattered. Tears spilled down her cheeks, silent and unstoppable. She tried to stand, fell back immediately, her body still too weak from hypothermia and exhaustion. "Do not move yet." Aaron kept his voice calm, steady, the same tone he had used with frightened civilians in war zones. "You are still recovering. She is fine. Take a breath." The woman obeyed, though her eyes never left the basket. Her hands gripped the blanket covering her like a lifeline. "Where am I?" "My cabin. About 40 miles from where I found you." "Who are you?" "Aaron Blake. I fix generators for the power company." The woman processed this, her gaze finally moving to examine her surroundings. The wood stove, the tools and machine parts, the dog lying alert between her and the baby. When her eyes landed on Ghost, Something shifted in her expression. "Your dog. He found you. Knew something was wrong before I did." As if understanding he was being discussed, Ghost rose and walked to the woman. He sniffed her outstretched hand carefully, thoroughly. Then he lay down at her feet. Aaron watched this with growing certainty that whatever story this woman had to tell, it was not the story of a criminal. Ghost had been trained to detect deception, not through any supernatural ability, but through the physiological signs that liars could not control. Changes in breathing, micro-expressions, stress hormones in sweat. If this woman were dangerous, Ghost would know. The baby was sedated. Aaron said it as fact, not accusation. "Professional job. You have medical training." The woman flinched, but did not deny it. "I was a patient intake coordinator at a clinic in Helena." "Was? I left 3 days ago." "With her." She looked at the basket again. Fresh tears spilled. "She is not mine. I took her. I had to." Aaron waited. Sometimes silence drew out more truth than questions ever could. The woman wiped her eyes with shaking hands. "My name is Lena. Lena Park. Aaron Blake." "But you already knew that." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. Disappeared immediately. "Mr. Blake, I need you to understand something before you decide what to do with us." She drew a breath that shuddered through her entire body. "I am a criminal. What I did is kidnapping under the law. If you call the police right now, they will arrest me and take the baby. And why would that be a problem? Because if you do that, she will disappear. For real this time. And no one will ever know what happened to her." Aaron studied the woman carefully. The dark circles beneath her eyes. The hollowed cheeks. The way her hands kept reaching toward the basket, even though she was too weak to stand. Whatever she had done, she believed she had done it for the right reasons. That did not make her right, but it made him willing to listen. Start from the beginning. "Tell me everything." Lena told him about the clinic. It had seemed legitimate at first, a community health center serving people without insurance, without documentation, without options. She had started in administration, processing paperwork, scheduling appointments. Simple work for simple pay. But she was good at her job, efficient, detail-oriented, the kind of employee who noticed patterns that others missed. Patterns like pregnant women arriving alone and leaving without their babies. Patterns like adoption paperwork that appeared too quickly, signed by mothers too exhausted to read what they were agreeing to. Patterns like wire transfers from overseas that never showed up in the official accounts. I asked questions once. Lena's voice had gone flat, the emotion drained out by repetition. My supervisor sat me down, explained that we were helping these women, giving their babies better lives with wealthy families overseas. Aaron recognized the script, the same justifications that traffickers always used. We are saving them. They are better off. Who are you to judge? You did not believe him. I wanted to. Lena looked at the fire. Believing him would have been easier. But I started keeping records. Dates, names, payment amounts, everything I could find without raising suspicion. For how long? Almost 2 years. Why did you not go to the police? Lena laughed, a bitter sound with no humor in it. With what? The word of an undocumented worker against a licensed medical facility with connections to half the judges in the county? Her jaw tightened. I had no proof that would hold up. Just patterns, just suspicions, just the knowledge that something was very, very wrong. What changed? The baby. Lena's eyes moved to the basket again. She was abandoned at the clinic 2 months ago, left at the back entrance with a note that said, Please take care of her. No mother, no documentation, no one to claim her. They named her Lily, put her in the nursery with the others. Aaron noticed the way Lena said the name, soft, protective, like a prayer. I saw my supervisor on the phone the day before I left, speaking German, writing down numbers. When he hung up, he looked satisfied, the way he always looked when a deal closed. $300,000, Lena continued. One baby. Destination unknown. Aaron felt something cold settle in his chest. Not surprise. He had seen enough of human nature to know that evil wore many faces, but hearing it laid out so plainly still carried weight. So you took her. I waited until the night shift, sedated her so she would not cry and give us away. Walked out the back door with nothing but the clothes I was wearing and enough cash for a bus ticket north. You were trying to reach Canada. I thought if I could disappear for a while, figure out my next move. But the storm, the bus? Lena shook her head. I almost killed us both. But you did not. She looked at him with eyes that held 5 years of accumulated horror. No, I did not. Because you stopped. Aaron was quiet for a long moment, processing everything she had told him, weighing it against what he knew, what he had seen, what his instincts were screaming. Ghost had not moved from Lena's feet. The ultimate character witness. If I call the police, Aaron said slowly, you get arrested for kidnapping. The baby goes into the system. Yes, and if this Marcus Cole has people in the system, she disappears. Lena's voice cracked. Just like the others. Just like all the others, I could not save. Aaron looked at the basket where Lily slept, warm and safe, and completely unaware of how close she had come to a very different fate. He thought about Amira, about promises broken and lives lost, and the weight of choices that could never be undone. He thought about the dog lying at this stranger's feet, trusting her the way he had never trusted anyone outside of Aaron himself. Tonight, you rest. Aaron stood and moved toward the window, staring out at the storm that showed no signs of stopping. Tomorrow, we figure out what happens next. You are not going to turn us in? Not tonight. Why Aaron watched snow pile against the glass, sealing them in with each passing hour. Because my dog trusts you. And because I made a promise once, to another child, that I could not keep. He paused. Maybe this time I can do better. Lena did not ask about the other child, did not push for details he was not ready to give. Some wounds did not need to be examined to be understood. The fire crackled, wind howled outside. Ghost settled deeper into his position, eyes half closed but still watchful. Somewhere out there, Marcus Cole was looking for them. A man who sold children with the same casual efficiency that other men sold cars. A man who would not stop until he recovered his merchandise. But tonight, in this cabin surrounded by walls of snow and silence, none of that mattered. Tonight, a baby slept safely for the first time in 3 days. Tonight, a woman rested without fear of what morning might bring. And tonight, a man who had stopped believing in second chances found himself wondering if maybe, just maybe, he had been wrong. Lily woke crying just past 3 in the morning. A thin sound at first, building quickly to the full-throated wail of a hungry infant. Lena stirred on the couch, but did not wake, her exhaustion too complete to overcome. Aaron stood frozen by the window. The sound cut through him like razor wire. Every cry dragged him backward, to a different child, a different night, a promise he had broken in the worst possible way. Ghost appeared at his side. The dog pressed his body against Aaron's leg, grounding him in the present, pulling him back from the edge of memory. Aaron looked down at his companion of 9 years. I know. He crossed to the basket on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. Lily's face was scrunched in displeasure, her tiny fists waving, her lungs demonstrating impressive capacity. Aaron reached down and picked her up. The weight of her, the warmth, the way she fit against his chest, like she had always belonged there. For a moment, he could not breathe. Then Lily's crying softened. She looked up at him with dark eyes that held no judgment, no expectation, no memory of the failures that haunted his sleep. Just trust, pure and absolute. Aaron found the bottle he had prepared earlier, heated it against his chest, and fed her while standing by the window. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, the only sound was the soft noise of an infant drinking. Ghost watched from his position by the couch. I have got you, little one. The words came out before Aaron could stop them. Hoarse, barely audible, carrying the weight of everything he had lost and everything he might still save. I have got you. Lily finished her bottle and fell asleep against his shoulder, one tiny hand gripping his shirt like she would never let go. Aaron held her until his arms ached, until the fire burned low, until the first gray light of dawn began to filter through the frost-covered windows. He held her, and for the first time in 5 years, the screaming in his head went quiet. Morning arrived with pale light filtering through ice-crusted windows. The storm had softened overnight, leaving behind a landscape buried under fresh powder that sparkled like crushed diamonds. Lena woke to find Lily sleeping peacefully in the basket, and Aaron gone. Panic seized her chest until she heard the rhythmic scrape of a shovel outside. Ghost remained at his post, dark eyes tracking her as she sat up and checked on the baby. When she reached toward the basket, the dog's tail thumped once against the floor. Permission granted. Lily was warm, breathing steadily. Color had returned to her cheeks, erasing the grayish tinge that had terrified Lena in the bus. The door opened with a rush of cold air. Aaron entered, carrying an armload of firewood, snow dusting his shoulders and beard. He stacked the logs beside the stove without looking at her. Someone drove up the access road last night. His voice was flat, calm. The voice of a man stating facts rather than expressing concern. Tire tracks about half a mile down. They turned around before reaching the cabin. Lena's blood went cold. How did they find us so fast? They have not found us, not yet. But they are looking. He finally turned to face her. The clinic knows you headed north. They know you took a bus. Would not take much to trace the route, find out where passengers got dropped during the storm. What do we do? Right now, nothing. Roads are still impassable. We stay put, stay quiet, and prepare for what comes next. Prepare how? Aaron studied her for a long moment. I am going to teach you some things. Things that might keep you alive if I am not around. The morning became a masterclass in survival. Aaron showed her the backup generator, how to start it, how to ration fuel. He walked her through the emergency supplies, the radio frequencies, the weapons he kept hidden throughout the cabin. He drew her a map from memory, marking a trail through the woods to an abandoned ranger station 8 kilometers north. If something happens to me, you take Lily and you follow this route. Do not stop for anything. Do not look back. Lena absorbed everything, her mind racing to keep up while her hands stayed busy with Lily's care. If you are enjoying this story, take a moment to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you will never miss another video like this one. Between lessons, something unexpected happened. They talked, not about strategy or escape routes, about the quieter things that existed in the spaces between crisis and calm. Aaron learned that Lena had come to America with her parents at 8 years old, that they died when she was 19, leaving her alone with debts she could never repay, that she had survived by becoming invisible, taking jobs that asked no questions, building a life in the shadows. Lena learned that Aaron had served 15 years as a Navy SEAL, that he had left 3 years ago under circumstances he did not explain, that the cabin, the isolation, the work that kept him moving through blizzards at midnight were all part of something he was running from. She did not ask what. Some wounds announced themselves without words. The second day brought unexpected warmth, not from the weather, which remained brutal, but from the strange domesticity that developed between strangers bound by circumstance. Aaron showed Lena how to prepare meals from canned goods, transforming random ingredients into something resembling comfort food. She taught him the Korean lullaby her mother used to sing, humming it softly while feeding Lily. Ghost moved between them like a furry diplomat, accepting scratches from Lena with growing enthusiasm, checking on Lily every few minutes, pressing against Aaron's leg whenever the shadows behind his eyes grew too dark. That evening, Lena noticed Aaron watching her feed the baby from across the room. His expression unreadable. "You could hold her." Lena kept her voice gentle. "She will not break." Aaron's jaw tightened. "I know," but he did not move. Later, after Lena had fallen asleep on the couch with Lily in the basket beside her, Aaron sat alone by the window. The fire had burned low, casting dancing shadows across the walls. Ghost padded over and rested his head on Aaron's knee. "You remember Amira?" The dog's ears perked at the name. "I promised I would bring her home. Told her she was safe, that nothing bad would happen as long as she stayed with me." Aaron's voice cracked on the words. "She believed me." Ghost whined softly. 6 hours later, she was dead. And I have been trying to figure out how to live with that ever since. The admission hung in the darkness, a confession spoken to the only witness who would never repeat it. Aaron looked at the basket where Lily slept. Maybe this is my chance to do it right. The third day, Lena woke screaming. Aaron was beside her in seconds, but he did not touch her. He had learned that lesson in war zones, with trauma victims who struck out at anyone who came too close. "Lena, look at me. You are safe." Look at me. Her eyes were wild, unfocused, still trapped in whatever nightmare had seized her. Her hands clutched at phantom attackers, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "You are in Montana. You are in my cabin. Lily is right there, sleeping. You are safe." Slowly, painfully, Lena's breathing steadied. Her eyes found his face and held on like a lifeline. "I was back there, at the clinic. They were taking her, and I could not stop them. It was a dream, just a dream." Lena shook her head, tears streaming. It was not just a dream. It was every day for 2 years. Watching them take babies from mothers who did not understand what they were signing. Watching families destroyed. Telling myself there was nothing I could do. She wrapped her arms around herself. "I carry those ghosts with me everywhere I go." Aaron was quiet for a long moment. "So do I." Lena looked at him. Really looked, for the first time since they met. Who did you lose? A little girl. In Afghanistan. He forced the words out past the tightness in his throat. I promised to protect her. I failed. What happened? Mission went wrong. Everyone died. Including her. The silence between them held no judgment, only recognition. Two people haunted by the same kind of ghost. Children they could not save. Promises they could not keep. We cannot change what happened. Lena's voice was barely a whisper. But maybe we can change what happens next. Aaron looked at Lily sleeping in her basket, the gray wool blanket wrapped around her tiny body. Maybe. The fourth day, Marcus Cole made his move. It started with a phone call. Unknown number. Aaron answered but said nothing, letting the silence speak for him. Mr. Blake, a pleasant voice. Cultured. The kind of voice that convinced investors to part with millions, or convinced juries to acquit the guilty. I believe you have something that belongs to us. Aaron waited. The woman who calls herself Lena Park is a mentally unstable former employee who kidnapped a child in her care. We are simply trying to recover the infant and get Miss Park the help she so clearly needs. Marcus paused for effect. I am sure a reasonable man like yourself understands that returning them is the right thing to do. Aaron spoke for the first time. Interesting definition of right. The pleasantness in Marcus's voice did not waver, but something cold crept into its edges. Mr. Blake, I am a patient man, but my patience has limits. That child belongs with her adoptive family. A wonderful couple in Munich who have been waiting months for her arrival. You are not a father. You do not understand the pain of wanting a child and being unable to have one. I understand the pain of losing one. Silence on the line. How many babies have you sold, Marcus? How many mothers told their children were going to better homes, while you deposited wire transfers from overseas buyers? Aaron's voice remained calm, steady, lethal. I have seen men like you before, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, men who convinced themselves that evil was just business. They all ended the same way. You have no idea who you are threatening. Neither do you. Aaron ended the call. Lena had gone pale. He knows where we are. Not exactly, but close enough. Aaron was already moving, gathering supplies, checking weapons. They will come tonight. Cut the power. Try to force us out into the cold, where they have the advantage. What do? We do not run. Running is what they expect. We make them come to us, and we make sure they regret it. That night, the lights went out. Aaron had been expecting it. The power line ran through forest that provided perfect cover for sabotage. When the hum of electricity died and darkness swallowed the cabin, he was already moving. Ghost, heal. Lena, grab Lily. We move now. They slipped out the back door into a world of moonlight and shadow. The storm had cleared, leaving behind a frozen landscape that crackled under each footstep. Aaron led them through the woods, following a route he had memorized years ago. Ghost ranged ahead, invisible in the darkness, alerting them to obstacles and threats. They had been walking for nearly an hour when Aaron stumbled. One moment he was striding through the snow. The next, his legs buckled and he dropped to his knees, one hand pressed against the old injury in his lower back. Keep moving, his voice came through gritted teeth. Ranger Station is less than 2 kilometers. I am not leaving you. You have to. Lily needs you. Lena shifted the baby's weight against her chest and reached down with her free hand. Then, help me. Lean on my shoulder. We move together, or we do not move at all. The next 90 minutes stretched into eternity. Aaron tried to carry his own weight, but his back kept failing. Lena's muscles screamed for rest, and Lily had gone quiet in a way that terrified them both. But Lena did not stop. She had run once before. Run from the clinic, from Marcus, from everything she had allowed herself to become. This time was different. This time, she was not running away from something. She was running towards it. The ranger station appeared through the trees like salvation. A small wooden structure, dark and cold, but solid, safe. They made it inside as Lily began to cry again. Weak, thin cries that meant she was cold, but alive. Lena held her against bare skin inside her coat, sharing body heat, while Aaron dragged himself to the fireplace and coaxed flames from ancient kindling. Warmth crept slowly back into the room, into their bodies, into their hope. Aaron made a call on his satellite phone. "Danny, it is Blake. I need you. No questions. You owe me. Daniel Reyes, former SEAL, current federal investigator. The kind of man who paid his debts without asking why." Aaron explained the situation in clipped sentences. The clinic, the trafficking, Marcus Cole, the evidence Lena had gathered. When he finished, Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "Cole is on our radar. Has been for years. But nobody could get close enough to gather proof. Now, you have a witness, and she has records. I can have a team there by tomorrow afternoon. Can you hold that long?" Aaron looked at Lena, who was singing softly to Lily, her voice cracked but steady. "We can hold." Marcus Cole arrived the next day with 2 men and the confidence of someone who had never been told no. He walked into the ranger station like he owned it, his expensive coat incongruous against the rustic surroundings. His smile never wavered as he surveyed the scene before him. "Miss Park, what a relief to find you safe. We have been so worried." Lena stood her ground, Lily in her arms, Aaron at her side despite his injured back. "You are not taking her." Marcus sighed with theatrical disappointment. "Lena, please, think about what you are doing. You have no legal standing, no documentation for yourself, let alone the child. Mr. Blake here has even less. One phone call, and you are both in custody while little Lily goes exactly where she belongs." "Where she belongs?" Lena's voice shook, but not from fear. "Not anymore. With buyers in Munich who paid $300,000 for her? With whatever family bought her like a piece of furniture?" Something flickered in Marcus's eyes. "You do not understand how this works." "I understand perfectly. I watched you do it for 2 years. Watched you take babies from mothers too desperate to fight back. Watched you destroy families for profit." She stepped forward, putting herself between Marcus and Lily. "I kept records. Everything. Names, dates, payment amounts, destinations. Every transaction you thought was invisible." Marcus's pleasant mask cracked. "Those records do not exist. They exist." Lena met his gaze without flinching. "Hidden somewhere, you will never find them. But federal investigators know exactly where to look." For the first time, Marcus looked uncertain. His eyes moved to Aaron, reassessing the threat. "You are making a mistake." Aaron stepped forward, Ghost rising to stand beside him with hackles raised. "The only mistake was yours. Thinking that because you wore a suit and spoke softly, you were not the same kind of predator I spent 15 years hunting. You cannot prove anything. We do not have to." Aaron smiled for the first time since the story began. A cold expression with no warmth in it. "They do." The sound of helicopters cut through the morning air. Federal vehicles appeared on the access road, moving fast despite the snow. Daniel Reyes stepped out of the lead vehicle, flanked by agents in tactical gear. Marcus Cole, you are under arrest for human trafficking, conspiracy, and about 40 other charges we will be adding shortly. Marcus tried to run. He made it 3 steps before Ghost brought him down, the dog's training overriding his age as he pinned the man in the snow without breaking skin. Marcus struggled beneath the weight of the old warrior, his expensive coat soaking through with melted ice. His composure finally shattered beyond repair. Daniel stood over him, cuffs in hand. Like I said, 40 charges, and counting. Before we finish, share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. Your share might be exactly what someone needs to keep going. 6 months later, the snow had melted from Montana. Green carpeted the hills. Wildflowers painted the meadows in colors that seemed impossible after such brutal winter. The world had remembered how to be beautiful again, as if nature itself was celebrating the end of something dark. The trafficking network was gone, completely dismantled. 23 arrests across 4 states. Over 40 children recovered and returned to birth families or placed with legitimate adoptive parents who had been properly vetted. Marcus Cole, serving 35 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole, his empire of exploitation reduced to a cell and a number. Lena had completed her testimony and entered witness protection. New name, new city, new life. She was studying nursing now, attending classes during the day, and working part-time at a community clinic that actually helped people. Determined to use what she had learned in dark places for genuinely good purposes. Aaron stood on the porch of his cabin, coffee mug warming his hands, watching Lily crawl across a blanket spread on the spring grass. She was 8 months old now, growing fast, hitting every milestone with the determination of a child who had decided early that the world would not defeat her. Ghost lay beside her, patient as ever, tolerating tiny hands that grabbed his fur and tried to use him as a climbing frame. The old dog moved slower these days, his muzzle almost entirely gray now, but his eyes still tracked every potential threat, every stranger who came too close to his family. Aaron had become Lily's legal guardian. The paperwork had taken months, his background scrutinized, his fitness questioned by social workers who saw only his isolation and his scars. But Daniel had vouched for him, and in the end, the caseworkers had seen what Ghost had known from the beginning. This man would die before letting harm come to this child. A car appeared on the dirt road, trailing dust behind it like a comet's tail. Aaron's hand moved toward his hip before he recognized the vehicle. Old habits died hard, especially habits that had kept him alive through 15 years of combat. But he relaxed when he saw the familiar shape of the rental car. Lena stepped out, looking like a different person. Healthy, rested, the haunted shadows gone from her eyes, replaced by something that looked remarkably like hope. She had come to say goodbye, to see Lily one more time before disappearing completely into her new life, her new identity, her second chance. Look at her. Lena knelt on the blanket, tears streaming freely as Lily reached for her with chubby arms and a drooly smile. She is so big, so beautiful, so strong. She asks for you, in her way. Lena pressed a kiss to the baby's forehead, breathing in the scent of baby shampoo and summer grass. I cannot stay. You know that. I know. But I needed to see her. Needed to see you both. Needed to know that something good came from all of it, from all the darkness. Aaron watched his daughter, because that was what she was now in every way that mattered, grab Ghost's ear and examine it with intense fascination. The dog bore the inspection with the dignity of a veteran who had survived worse. Something good came from it. Lena stood, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "Will you be okay? Both of you?" Aaron considered the question carefully. 6 months ago, he would have said no, would have believed that some wounds never healed, some ghosts never quieted, some debts could never be repaid no matter how hard you tried. But watching Lily discover the world with fearless curiosity, reaching for butterflies and laughing at the way grass tickled her palms, he felt something he had not felt in 5 years. Peace. "We will be okay." Lena nodded, accepting his answer as truth. She kissed Lily one more time, scratched Ghost behind the ears the way the old dog liked, and met Aaron's eyes with a gaze that held everything words could not express. "Thank you for stopping that night, for believing me when you had no reason to, for all of it." Then she was gone, her car disappearing down the dusty road, carrying her toward a future she had earned through courage and sacrifice, and the simple refusal to look away from evil. Aaron sat down on the blanket beside his daughter. Lily crawled into his lap immediately, clutching the gray wool blanket that had been with her since that frozen night in the abandoned bus. The same blanket that had wrapped around her dying body in the forest when her heart had nearly given up. The same blanket she now dragged everywhere like a treasured possession, her constant companion besides Ghost. The old dog settled his head on Aaron's knee, completing their small circle of 3. The afternoon stretched out before them, warm and peaceful, filled with the ordinary miracles of grass and sunlight, and a child's laughter echoing across the meadow. A man who had known only how to fight, learning how to stay. A baby who had been born into darkness, growing toward light. A dog who had seen too much, finally at rest. Sometimes the greatest changes do not announce themselves with fanfare or thunder. They arrive quietly, in the creak of a cabin door opening to spring air, in the laughter of a child discovering her own hands, in the steady breathing of a man who no longer fears sleep. Aaron had not found redemption. He had found something better. He had found a reason. "I have got you, little one." The words came easily now, carrying no weight of old pain, no echo of broken promises. "I have got you." Lily looked up at him and smiled, a real smile, full of trust and joy, and the innocent certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. And in that moment, on a spring afternoon in Montana, with a scarred dog at his side and a rescued child in his arms, Aaron Blake finally understood what it meant to come home, not to a place, to a purpose.